Good evening, dear viewers, and welcome to a new episode of the Daily Debate. I'm your host for tonight, Muhammad Abdurrahim. And tonight we'll be talking about the Sharm el-Sheikh Peace Summit, co-chaired by President Sisi and US President Donald Trump, and where Egypt, the United States, Turkey and Qatar signed to the peace deal between Israel and Hamas, and of course we'll be following the situation on the ground, what's happened after that as the first stage. Still we're still in the first phase. We haven't reached the second, and there are some difficulties regarding the continuation of the first phase. Israeli violations, as always, are on the table. So we'll be discussing that with our dear guest here with us in the studio, Dr. Milad Mumtaz, the political affairs and the international affairs expert. A very good evening to you, Dr. Mumtaz. Always a pleasure to have you with us. But first, dear viewers, we have a couple of main stories here in the program. As on Thursday and during its plenary session chaired by Speaker Dr. Hanafi Gebali, the House of Representatives gave a final approval to the draft criminal procedures law after addressing President Sisi's comments on 8 of its articles. On September 21st, the President directed that the draft criminal procedure law be returned to the House of Representatives to review objections to some of its articles. The law had been sent to the Presidency on August 26th for approval. However, the President received numerous appeals urging reconsideration of certain provisions. The contested articles relate to issues of governance, clarity and practicality, according to a statement by the presidential spokesman. The presidential spokesman added that the review was also needed to expand alternatives to pre-trial detention, minimizing reliance on it and removing ambiguities in legal drafting that could result in multiple interpretations for enforcement challenges, according to the appeals. So the House of Representatives has given its final approval to the draft criminal procedures law after addressing the President's comments on 8 of its articles. And moving on to another story here that we have tonight, the Cairo Water Week 2025 concluded its activities with its closing session on Thursday. The event, organized by the Ministry of Water Resources and Irrigation, focused on innovative solutions for climate resilience and water sustainability, and brought together leaders, experts and practitioners to discuss urgent water-related challenges and solutions. Activities included numerous technical sessions, a large exhibition showcasing water technologies, and various competitions to recognize innovation and student projects. The Prime Minister was there in the final session on Thursday. Prime Minister Dr. Madbouli gave a speech on Thursday in the closing session of the Cairo Water Week. So these were our top stories here for the night. And now back to our main topic here in the episode, as the Peace Summit in Sharm el-Sheikh witnessed Monday the ceremony of the leaders of the mediating countries on a document to support the agreement reached on October 9th as in ending the war comprehensively between Israel and Hamas, or Israel and Gaza, completing the entire process of the prisoner swap, enforcing the Israeli withdrawal from Gaza, and supplying Gaza with humanitarian aid. And of course that deal was signed in Sharm el-Sheikh, the city of peace, in the presence of 29 world leaders, with President Sisi, President Trump, President Erdogan, and Emir Tamim signing this accord. But much has happened since on the ground, so we'll be discussing that with our dear guest, Dr. Milad Mumtaz, the international affairs expert here in the studio. But first, Dr. Mumtaz and dear viewers, let's watch a report about the summit, and then we'll come back and start our discussion.
The Sharm el-Sheikh summit brought together an unusually broad coalition of international actors, including representatives from the United States, Egypt, the European Union, the Arab League, and other global powers. The presence of leaders from diverse nations and perspectives demonstrated a shared commitment to ending the bloodshed and fostering a sustainable peace process. While political differences remained, the summit successfully emphasized common ground, particularly the immediate need for a ceasefire and humanitarian relief for the people of Gaza. US President Trump described the summit as a historic breakthrough, highlighting the unprecedented cooperation displayed by the parties involved, while President el-Sisi underscored Egypt's role as a mediator and guardian of regional stability, calling the agreement the last chance for achieving a lasting resolution to the conflict. Central to the summit's achievements was the signing of a comprehensive ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas. Among its most notable elements was a large-scale prisoner exchange in which Hamas released the remaining 20 living Israeli hostages, and Israel freed nearly 1,900 Palestinian detainees. This humanitarian step, facilitated by international organizations including the Red Cross, is widely celebrated on both sides, signaling a willingness to make tangible concessions in the interest of peace. The agreement also included provisions designed to stabilize Gaza politically and economically. A technocratic Palestinian governing body was established to oversee the administration of Gaza, with international oversight intended to ensure transparency, neutrality, and effective governance. Security arrangements called for the phased disarmament of militant groups, supported by the deployment of international peacekeepers to maintain order. These measures were coupled with a robust plan for Gaza's reconstruction valued at $53 billion and supported by contributions from international donors aimed at addressing the extensive damage inflicted by years of conflict. After the ceremony, President el-Sisi awarded Trump the Order of the Nile, a necklace made of pure gold considered to be Egypt's highest honor. President el-Sisi called the day a historic milestone that ends an agonizing chapter.
An agonizing chapter in world history. It is. Thank you very much, Manal Al-Ibyari and Khalid Abdelbari. In this report, we're here with Dr. Milad Mumtaz, the international relations expert. It was a chapter, indeed, Dr. Mumtaz, which mankind lost much of its humanity. Palestinians suffered too much for too long. Egypt reiterating, of course, that instability in the Middle East stems from denying simply from denying the Palestinians the right for self-determination, denying the Palestinians of their right to have a viable and independent state according to international resolutions, according to UN resolutions and international law on the borders of June 4th, 1967, with East Jerusalem al-Quds as its capital. And Egypt's vision of the Middle East, according to statements here from Cairo, is one built on justice, equality of rights, good neighborliness, and peaceful coexistence among all its peoples without exception. Dr. Mumtaz, the Sharm el-Sheikh summit was a highlight. I mean, basically the world was here in Egypt, in the city of peace, in Sharm el-Sheikh. What did you think of that historical summit? Let's begin with Monday's historical summit first.
And that was a turning point in my mind. It wasn't something simple. Yeah, I would agree that we'd call it historic, of course, because that was a great moment in the history not only of the Middle East, if not, I'm not exaggerating, but I think in the history of the whole world. Because, let me put it straightforward, that the last 2 years, almost, we lost hope. And we lost hope in peace and reaching peace. And the more video footages that we were witnessing the last 2 years, the agony, the bloodshed, the ongoing, torture of the people, our brother in Gaza, I think that was unbearable and beyond any vocab that's available in any dictionary in the world. So when we get to that moment and we find someone like Mr. Donald Trump talks about peace and talks about durable peace, I find that as very, very crucial. And once again, let me put it, as I said before, it's a turning point. Especially as we were actually, following the situation last couple of days, especially on that momentous day. One of the things, of course, there is much to be said about what happened. But one thing that stopped me on that day as he was there at the Knesset, delivering his speech.
Before coming to Sharm el-Sheikh?
Before coming to Sharm el-Sheikh. I paused for a couple of minutes because my feeling was so different. Because I felt that some of the members of the Knesset, they weren't really willing to stay. It's like, talking about peace to them was something unbearable. And they didn't want, of course, okay, the radical and, ministers like Smotrich, bring it here. I think they were like forced to stay in their seats. So, on the other hand, when I compared that scene that we saw at the Knesset and what we saw at Sharm el-Sheikh, I think that's not only shockingly different, it's drastically different between the two scenes. Okay, on the one hand, at the Knesset, okay, Mr. Trump emphasized that war is over. Unfortunately, the last couple of days, especially yesterday, we've been hearing that as who said that? Okay, war is now over.
Contradictory statements. Okay, so we're getting a lot of confusing messages from Mr. Trump.
Exactly. So, okay, so we get, on that day, I'm talking about that day, not the coming days. On that day, we see two different things, contrasting things. Okay, people, you would feel that they are forced to accept peace at the Knesset. And on the other hand, rest of the world, if I may put it that way, seeking peace and pursuing to get there to have peace in the world. And when I see the two situations, something else of the comparison, the members of the Knesset and the world leaders, on the other hand, the 29 world leaders. Okay, 29 wanting peace, supporting peace wholeheartedly, want that bloodshed to stop as soon as possible. The others, okay, I don't think that they wanted to stop the bloodshed. Okay, war to them is something so, if I may put it, as holy, as a goal in itself. And others, I would say that we got fed up with all of this. That last 2 years, I think they witnessed something unprecedented in modern history.
Yeah, you know, Dr. Mumtaz, when you mention again the great big gathering in Sharm el-Sheikh, the 29 world leaders, first thing that comes to my mind is how can anyone retract from this? I mean, it's not only about Mr. Trump, who many analysts would say it's going to be very hard to retract from the position. After all, it was his plan, and he was the one, you know, who enforced it on Israel, and he clearly going for peace and saying that the war is over. So now it's not only about Mr. Trump or Egypt, Turkey, and Qatar, the signees, but also the rest. I mean, as if they are all now guarantors that these world leaders that came to the City of Peace in Sharm el-Sheikh, I think it would, personally, it would be very hard for any of them to retract from this, because somehow they are now all guarantors of peace. Not just the 4 countries that signed, but all of those who were present. Would you agree with that?
I totally agree. Totally agree. Definitely. I not totally, definitely agree, because I think that scene, you know, what we saw on that day, I think, you know, that's something unusual by all measures. You know, we find that kind of gathering, as you said, and those leaders, yeah, I agree that as guarantors, okay, and not only guarantors, witnessing this. You know, we are the witnesses, and not only just witnesses in my mind. They want actually this to happen. They want that peace. Because once again, let's say we go back to the European leaders, for example. And this is actually, you know, one of the most remarkable things that I saw on that day, especially when it comes to European leaders. Namely, I would say, European leaders. Of course, with all due respect to Asian leaders and other leaders and the international bodies and whatsoever, but I stopped there. Those European leaders, actually, that was totally different. And for, okay, to whom, okay, those who think that it's something simple, or they oversimplify this, that you find those European leaders behind that momentous thing. No, that's not that simple. You need to go back to history books to see what those people had done, you know, since 1920s, and even before 1920s. Let me remind everyone once again of 1916 and what happened with Balfour, you know. So, and that was, namely, that was Europe. United for America came afterwards, but basically the start was there in Europe. So when we see that kind of shift, drastic shift in my mind, I think to Europe, that's something is, you know, that's unusual by all measures.
You know, if it's easy for Spain, because I mean the Spanish government and the Spanish people have had one of the most honorable positions that you can think of. I mean, and you know, humanity would thank Spain and their people for this. It's not easy for the Italian government or the German government, let's say, for instance, but it's also because of their great people. And we saw how the Italians protested in the streets against the Israeli genocide war. So, I mean, I guess that some of these leaders, let's say like Mr. Sanchez in Spain, did this because he's convinced that this is the right position and the moral position and the ethical position, and his people agree with him. But the Italians, let's say, or the Germans are on the boat because these leaders want to be in the same line with their peoples, the great peoples of Italy and Germany, and especially the protests in Italy were amazing.
Yeah, I like the 2 examples that you gave, you know, because Spain, we get it, so it's not only the political leadership, it's the political leadership and public opinion. They are both on the same page. Okay, so we're not arguing over this. But when it comes to Italy, and namely Italy, okay, the Prime Minister, the lady, actually, you know, she has acknowledged before that she is wholeheartedly supporting Israel more than once. She made it clear. But when we see that kind of change, and she would come and attend the conference, I think that was a direct result of the public opinion pressure and the public pressure of the Italian people. And namely when it comes to...
Dr. Mumtaz, sorry to interrupt, the Italian peoples want to take her to court because she allowed the Israeli war crime suspect Netanyahu to fly over Italian airspace while Netanyahu couldn't fly over Spanish airspace or French airspace.
Yeah, and that's unprecedented. That's unprecedented as well, the example you gave, which of course that's not only symbolic, by the way, that's very crucial. Okay, because it's being chased, by the way, literally and politically speaking, legally, not only politically. But let me go back to the Italian example. Okay, now we see a public opinion in action in Europe. This is something that I think we have never seen this for the last, I think, 30, 40 years, especially when it comes to the Palestinian cause.
We've never seen it, Dr. Mumtaz.
Maybe early 1970s, you know, maybe because of some movements, of youth movements back then, okay, like in UK and Italy to a certain extent. But recently, we have never seen this. And we need actually, I think in my mind, to stop and ask ourselves, what is it? Is it the public opinion? The people themselves, as you said, they made that kind of change. Okay, and we need to ask ourselves once again, why that? Why those people? Because October 7 and before October 7th, situation I think was not clear to those people, especially when it comes to young men and young women in Europe. And now that has changed. So even we have that kind of, you know, differences between the leadership and the public. And the leadership nowadays in Italy and Germany positively responding to the public demands. And in Germany, I think it's a tougher situation in Germany.
Must be.
And the chancellor, we know about him. He is a vivid supporter as well of Israel. But when we see him once again at that wonderful gathering, as part and parcel of that wonderful formula, I would say it, I would describe this, that is a new formula in the Middle East. In the whole region, not only in the Middle East. Yeah, and a new way of approaching the Middle East, and I would say it's a new approach to seeing the whole world now.
And protests in France and also in the UK must have had their influence. And of course, public opinion is also changing, Dr. Mumtaz, in the United States. And for the very first time, we saw a CNN poll saying that, you know, Palestinians, those who favor now or sympathize with Palestinians more than Israelis, are ahead by 1% for the very first time in history of the struggle. And that's in the United States. And maybe this is why Mr. Trump told the war crime suspect Israeli premier that you cannot fight the whole world. So the question here is, I mean, we go back again to Mr. Trump, because we understand from the very, very beginning that it's all in the hands of the strongest man in the world, the strongest country in the world. This is very clear. Stop, stop. Yes, yes, no, no. I mean, it's very clear, and everybody knew it. So now, is the will there? Does the will exist to continue this to the very end, in your view?
Okay, if you...
The will of the White House.
Okay, if you may actually allow me to, because I'd like to make a simple comment on the first part of the question about the public opinion.
The whole world,
yeah, and about the public opinion in United States of America. This is unprecedented as well. Okay, in the United States of America, okay, who studies, who knows about the United States of America, and who knows about how strong, how influential, okay, the Israeli lobby in the United States of America, wouldn't believe the latest, okay, results of the polls, okay, being conducted in the United States of America. This is unusual in the States, and this is a drastic change as well. And even when it comes to Mr. Trump himself, a couple of months ago, he wasn't in favor of this, and his rhetoric was different. His vocab was different, you know. And nowadays,
but his vocab is also very confusing these days, because as you mentioned earlier, a few minutes ago, Dr. Mumtaz, yesterday he said that if Hamas doesn't, you know, completely fulfill all of the items on the agreement, then he could easily tell Israel to to proceed with its war.
Okay, I wouldn't deny this, but what I'm trying to say, okay, I'd like to focus on a simple thing, which is not that simple, as you said. It's about, okay, that how people, even in United States of America, feel about Israel. Okay, this is something, once again, it's unusual. Okay, and the people in the United States of America, so many of them, especially when it comes to young men and young women, and that actually takes us to another area, which is what universities in the United States of America and what they have been doing protest, because what you're saying is support of Palestine, that was considered something as a crime in the United States of America, that how dare you supporting Palestine.
But this is directly a result of the Israeli war crimes. I mean, and the simple fact is that there isn't one single war crime that they didn't commit. So obviously, human conscience is still there. I mean, it's not dead yet.
Totally agree. However, in Tel Aviv, and the Israeli people and the Israeli government, I think that's something is built in. They believe that no matter what we do, no matter whatever something radical we would actually commit, that doesn't matter, because the United States of America would always support us no matter what. Okay, and that's why Mr. Trump has been warning. It's not something that happened once in my mind.
For months he's been
he has been warning, because he gets the latest reports from the CIA and other, of course, agencies. I think the reports are very clear.
In fact, I think he said it once, something in the context of that he's doing this to protect Israel from Israel.
Yeah, definitely yes. Okay, but I think the moment has come now that, okay, no, you should stop this. And that's why, in my mind, it's like perfect timing in my mind.
Yep.
Okay, because Mr. Trump, as a businessman, he knows about timing, and he knows about perfect timing and when to interfere. So that American intervention, I think it was highly required, not only for the sake of Israel, by the way. In my mind, it's for the sake of the United States of America. It's protecting the interests of the United States of America. And I think that was very obvious, a term sheet, by the way. Okay, that Mr. Donald Trump is not only talking about Israel, by the way. He is addressing the leaders. That's what we are like, want to cooperate. It's time to go forward.
And Israel has lost much of its support, even within MAGA itself, and even within Republican spheres, not just Democratic spheres.
Yeah, even at the Congress. And this is surprising as well, because as we saw the Congress, I think it was last year, and the standing ovations for, I think, more than 50 times as they were receiving, okay, Mr. Netanyahu, I think now has changed as well.
You see the difference between the vision of Egypt and Israel for the Middle East. They both want a new Middle East, but for Israel, for Netanyahu, the war crime suspect, Smotrich and Gen-Fear and their likes, the new Middle East is greater Israel. Full stop. But for Egypt, the new Middle East is justice, equality, good neighborliness, peaceful coexistence. So there's a stark contrast between what Egypt views for the Middle East and what... So you're saying now that, or at least this is what we're hoping, that Mr. Trump is leaning now towards the vision of Egypt of peaceful coexistence, justice, equality, and good neighborliness. We're going to be fair to all. We're going to be fair to all. These are the words of Mr. Trump. So is he leaning now towards this vision at the expense of the greater Israel vision? And can he backtrack? I mean, how can he? I mean, it's hard to imagine, no matter what happens, how can he retract?
Okay, first of all...
But it's also difficult to imagine that things will be smooth.
And
that he, all of a sudden, he's leaning towards the vision of Egypt and not that of Israel.
Okay, first of all, the couple of words that you mentioned, justice, equality.
Good neighborliness.
Okay, I find that these are not just mere words, by the way. It's not about we open up some book and then we find some words scattered, okay, across the book. It's about something that I find that these words are highly needed in the Middle East. It's not some rhetorical way of putting this. You know, no, I find that what Egypt's vision is not only the right vision, it's the most feasible one. And something else, it's the most practical one. Because Israel's vision is not a vision in my mind. I'm sorry, I wouldn't call it a vision, because that's highly destructive. When confronting everyone, not only the Middle East, by the way, now it's not, you're not only confronting the Middle Eastern countries, you want to confront the entire world. And then you would say, that's my way of doing peace. It's like saying, you know, the American proverb, my way or the highway. And I think it never works, and it will never work, by the way.
And the good thing, I think, Dr. Mumtaz, is that we're hearing now, it's not just Egypt's vision, but we're hearing Turkey, for instance, a big influential regional power like Turkey, one of the guarantors, one of the mediators, one of those who signed to the Sharm el-Sheikh peace deal, Turkey reiterating Egypt's words. The only solution is the independent viable Palestinian state, June 4th, 67 borders, right of self-determination. So, I mean, obviously now there is a great cohesion in the position of Egypt and Turkey, the two huge powers.
Okay, in my mind, it's like Israel getting stuck. They have no way out. Okay, peace is the only way.
And Egypt and Turkey are talking peace.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, you know. When you get stuck, now you have Saudi Arabia, you have Turkey, and you have Egypt, and of course most of Middle Eastern countries. And your vision is the most
Iran
feasible.
was invited, by the
way.
Yeah.
Okay, and I really like the American vision, because he was talking about, okay, that, okay, we can make peace. So Mr. Trump is open. He wants to do this, and he can do this, as you said, because it's a matter of will, a strong will. And of course, he had that kind of will. Retracting, backtracking, I think that would be very difficult and very challenging, because he was surrounded by world leaders. What would you tell them? Okay, that Israel is right, and we will go back to war, and nothing mattered, and peace doesn't matter.
Okay, but let's discuss what has happened since Monday. Now, Hamas gave Israel back the 20 living hostages, and it handed them nine of the 28 dead bodies. 19 remain. Israel says that Hamas is not serious, and it's not doing good enough work, and that it's taking time, and so on. Hamas says, you know, it's doing its best. It needs heavy equipment. That heavy equipment hasn't been brought in. Israel has only withdrawn from 47% of Gaza's lands, and still controls 53%. So maybe the rest of the bodies exist in those 53%. Maybe the rest of the bodies are under the rubble because of the heavy bombardment. Was it 8 nuclear weapons? Was that the equivalent of 8 nuclear weapons that Israel bombarded Gaza with? So the Palestinians every day are discovering tens and hundreds of their own dead bodies. So Mr. Trump saying that he believes Hamas is doing its best in this specific point. So let's just talk about this specific point, the return of the dead bodies. Where do you see this standoff? Because Israel is now saying we're not going to open the Rafah border, and they are going to try to delay the humanitarian aid, which is really needed in an imminent way.
Of course.
Just this point now.
Yeah, okay, the return of the 20
and then the disarmament. We'll later talk about the disarmament issue.
Okay, the return of the 20 living ones, okay, I think that was a very important thing. But however, I find Israel is that like the pretext, or they want to come up with whatever justification to halt the humanitarian aid entering Gaza. So I think United States of America knows that it's very difficult, especially when it comes to the dead bodies and the remains of actually the dead. It's very difficult because, as you said, the heavy bombardment, Gaza is
meters under the ground.
Yeah, and there's something else.
And they were probably killed with their captives, by the way.
Okay, Gaza is unrecognizable. Even from aerial footages, you can't really recognize. So how would you recognize, actually, as you said, you know, every possibility we are
It
open.
must take time.
Yeah, we are open to whatever possibilities. But Israel actually wanting, like to say,
Any pretext.
yeah, okay, any pretext, and like want to go back to war. That's in my mind.
Oh,
as I
okay, you're
said
next to the yellow line, so I'm going to shoot you. And we saw this happening in the past few days. They've killed many Palestinians after the ceasefire. Okay, so but you think that this can be resolved, because we understand that Mr. Trump himself understands that this will take time.
It has to be resolved, okay, because we don't want to go back to war.
Okay, Israel says we're not going to move to the second phase until all of the dead bodies return, but Mr. Trump had a statement yesterday or the day before saying that we're already in the second phase. So where are we now?
I think, okay, we are trying for the time being to get both done, you know. You know, it's like working parallelly. You know, we get done with phase one, and that's what we've been trying actually to explain to the Israeli side. That's what, okay, that those people that are finding the remains of the dead, okay, it's not an easy task, and that will take some time. And we shouldn't wait on the initiation of phase two, because Israel has been wanting that. They want actually to put off the whole thing for now until you return, okay, the remains of the dead. And of course that would be a good excuse that we put off the whole thing. And on the other hand, the guarantors, okay, and other countries and United States of America, they don't want to do that.
And the witnesses.
Yeah, of course, and the witnesses. So
those who were in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yeah, so I think in my mind, we put more pressure on Israel. Because actually, you know, yeah, you would get the remains of the dead bodies, and on the other hand, at the same time, we actually sat at the table and then we discussed, because actually, you know, phase two is more challenging than phase one, in my mind. It's not that easy.
Dr. Badr Abdulati, the foreign minister, had a statement saying exactly this on Thursday, that phase two is not going to be an easy one, and it's much more complicated.
Yeah, because it has to do with very basic issues, you know. So I think Israel is playing that kind of game for the time being, the last 2 days.
Yeah. Another thing that has happened in Gaza is that Hamas is conducting public executions against those whom it described as traitors who were collaborating with the Israeli occupation. And we've heard also conflicting statements, again, contradictory statements from Mr. Trump about this. One saying that he understands, you know, and the other one saying that we will look into this matter and we will try to stop it or hold some type of investigation on it. Where is the real thing here? Because again, we're hearing contradictory statements from Mr. Trump.
Okay, first of all, we need to understand that, okay, something we call it security vacuum, you know. No security forces on the ground in Gaza. And of course, Hamas has been heavily weakened. We talk about, okay, 2-year ongoing war with one of the strongest armies in the region.
They lost their first, second, and third rank.
Okay, according to some estimates, okay, it's like 30% remaining, maybe less than 30%. So, you know, security troops or security forces, that's not enough to secure Gaza. So, and I think we are back once again to, you know, the very British old-fashioned game of divide and rule. You know, they deploy, okay, some troops and some tribes, you know, some gangs, you know, in Gaza. To play that kind of role, they want to give the impression that Gaza, okay, is out of control. There is no security in Gaza. So they would say that, no, Hamas should be out of the scene completely. And they would say, and they have been actually saying this, echoing this, for I think the last, you know, maybe 10 months now, even, you know, the Palestinian Authority, they are not capable and they won't be able to make it. It's like raising doubts about, you know, everyone that you won't be able to make it.
Of course, Mr. Abbas was here.
Yeah, of course, and that was a huge thing, by the way, as well. Okay, and of course, Mr. Netanyahu not attending, okay, Sharm el-Sheikh conference, I think that's, okay, that's a crucial point as well.
Was it because he, in your view, Was it because he feared being isolated here in Sharm el-Sheikh and hearing things that he wouldn't like to hear? Or was it because of inner calculations?
Both.
Okay.
Okay, the radical there, of course, as we were talking about being a fear, and a Smotrich, of course, going to Egypt, especially at that very special moment, which is something they saw it back. Okay, that's betrayal.
And surely he would have been snubbed here.
Yeah, and this is something very important as well. Okay, he wouldn't want to do this. He wouldn't be actually facing and talking to the 27 leaders, in my mind, because he would have had very hard time.
The disarmament issue. And again, we've heard, I don't know if it's contradictory or not, but we've heard some statements from Mr. Trump saying that if Hamas doesn't disarm now willingly, the US will intervene and will do it by force. And other statements that seem to be more reconciliatory and waiting for the observer, the international observers force to be here to be in Gaza, because that's what the plan says. As we understand, that these Hamas weapons that it has agreed to hand over, according to talks with the Americans themselves, they will be handed over either to a Palestinian committee or to the international observers force or whatever. But of course, a lot of ambiguity really remains about the, entre parenthèses, disarmament issue. How do you think this could be an obstacle to moving forward, and where is exactly the American position?
Disarmament is one of the most challenging things, you know, and of course Israel has been talking about this for a while now, and they've been threatening, you know, Hamas, and you know, you should do that. You must do that, and you should do it willingly, and of course that's very difficult in my mind. Hamas has been playing that game, I think, for the last couple of weeks in a very professional way. You know, I think much more smarter way than the Israeli way. You know, and I think that's all because of the mediators in my mind. They have been clarifying this to Hamas.
Great job done by Egypt, Turkey and Qatar.
And not only great job, you know, and once again the perfect moment, the timing. Egypt, I think, and Qatar, both of them, I think they told Hamas very clearly, now or never.
And Turkey, Dr. Mumtaz.
Okay, so
because the Turkish intervention must have had its impact.
Of course,
because they only intervened in the past few weeks.
I wouldn't deny this, but I'm talking about the mediators in general. Now or never, that, I think, to Hamas, that was very important. Because you got to do it now. And that's what Hamas has been doing for the last couple of weeks now. They have been listening. They have been showing some levels of flexibility, which I think that's very smart on their side. Okay, but not that much of this flexibility. And that's understandable as well. Because Hamas has been building this kind of entity for a very long time. We talk about since 2005. Okay.
Before that, I think.
And even before that, secretly, yeah. Okay, but they came to power in 2005.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say that, of course, I'm not in favor that Hamas would keep, you know, okay, the arms, because that would be threatening, first of all, to the Palestinian people, by the way. I know we would get to that kind of discussion about resistance.
They would respond and say that as long as
the Israeli forces are there,
exists, then there has to be.
I get this as well, because actually they still hold on to the notion of resistance. But what we want and what Egypt wants, and Qatar and Turkey as well, we have been trying to explain Hamas, now it's the time for diplomatic resistance. Not actually we do it in a military way. And Egypt actually has been doing this since 1970s. Okay, 1979. Okay, the Camp David Accords.
Yes.
So you can do this, by the way. Resistance is not only through military measures. We can do this through diplomacy. And that's what we saw in the last couple of days. Even to the extent that we got the American president to come to Egypt and to be one of the key guarantors, not only guarantors, the signers.
Netanyahu, the war crime suspect, wanted we've been talking about this for 2 years. He wanted a final photo of all-out victory. He didn't get it.
He will not get it. Because let me ask a simple question. What does it mean?
The steadfastness and the sacrifices of the Palestinians in Gaza who refused to leave their land.
Hats off to them,
Yeah.
by the way.
Yeah, yeah.
Those people, actually, they are...
Egypt was dead right
Yeah, okay.
when it said no forced displacement.
Exactly, but if you don't mind, I'd like to say something. Those people in Palestine, I think they are the ones deserve to get the Nobel Prize Peace. Okay, the prize should go to those people, by the way, not anyone else, because they have been enduring that ongoing suffering for 2 years now, non-stop, and they have never given up. Okay, and something else I'd like to make a simple comment on it about Egypt. Without Egypt, once again, I'm not exaggerating, not because we are in Egypt. Let's imagine that something else had happened. Opening the borders, for example, a scenario now for this. I think that would have resulted in some, complications that would be unrecoverable. So I think in my mind, Egypt actually has been, as you said, the word itself, and let me quote you, steadfastness. This is not only just a mere word. That's what Egypt has been doing for the last 2 years.
I like it when you say the diplomatic resistance. Finally, Dr. Mumtaz, is this a deal just for Gaza? Or is this a deal for peace in the Middle East, as Mr. Trump says? And how can it be a deal for the Middle East, the entire Middle East, if there is no independent, viable Palestinian state according to UN resolutions? And how can we build? How can we really build on the recognition of the Palestinian state at the UN General Assembly by those big powers? And how can we convince Mr. Trump that this is the way forward, the two-state solution? Because so far he's been,
back and forth.
Yeah, about the two states.
Yeah. I think he has seen himself for the last couple of weeks, especially at the United Nations. It has never been seen. I was so proud, watching what was happening there at the United Nations, the General Assembly, because it's been a while now. We have never seen something like this magnitude. And it's like I wouldn't use all of, but we'd say that most of the countries in the world heading in a specific direction. Yeah, we are talking about 2 other countries not wanting to do that. Maybe some other minor ones, but insignificant. I'm sorry, but the 2 main ones, the United States of America and Israel. Rest of the world, going in a totally different direction. So I think we need to take advantage of that moment, in my mind, as you said, to build on this. And I think it's mainly the responsibility of Arab and Muslim countries.
Thank you very much, Dr. Milad Mumtaz, as always, the international relations expert. Always a great pleasure to have you with us, sir. And thank you, dear viewers, for watching tonight's edition of the Daily Debate. Please stay with Nile TV.